Tom Crean now talking with reporters, not only about the suspended play.
Go right ahead.
Tom,
Go ahead.
how do you impress upon
After being involved in that accident, let's listen to the IU Hoosier basketball coach.
that goes above and beyond the general student population?
You keep at it. Yeah, there's a quote one of our coaches found. I wish that I'd seen this at some other point, but he said the greatest problem with communication is the illusion that it has been accomplished. And that's by George Bernard Shaw. Maybe you've seen that. I'd never seen that. And to me, all you can keep doing is keep doing that. You have to keep putting it out there. You have to keep addressing it. And you're always going to play hindsight when when anything happens. You know, at halftime, you play hindsight's 20/20. After the game, I mean, the first thing you do when you jump into the films is you don't look at all the things that you did well, look at what you didn't do well. I mean, that's the way it is with communication in every area, and it is with strategies and things of that nature. But can never stop, and I've never been a part of it as an assistant coach or I've been involved in college basketball now 28 years and 16 years now as a head coach, starting my 16th season as a head coach. Never been in a situation where I felt like we weren't trying to communicate enough. But there's very few times at the end of the year where you look and say every bit of communication was adhered to. It isn't. But you just keep working at it to the very best that you can. And it is extremely hard, no matter where it is in college athletics, and I'm sure it's the same with high school. I have a high schooler. I'm sure it's the same thing with junior high, is when you are held to a different standard, all right, you do have to, it's a 24/7 standard you have to really work towards. And we have 24/7 responsibility, 24/7 accountability. That comes with it. But the young people, they don't have that back. And there's so many other people that they make their own choices now. I mean, I'm not saying this is this person's fault or that person's fault. I've never, going back to an assistant coach with Ralph Willard and Tom Izzo, we never let somebody put the blame on somebody else. I mean, the players, the people make the choices. So, but not everybody has the same standards, and they don't have the same responsibilities, and they certainly don't have the same notoriety. But you deal with it, and you constantly communicate it, and the most important thing is not just mine, okay? It's having a group of people, a staff of people that are doing that, and then you try to get the parents and the significant others in their life, whether it's grandma, grandpa, aunt, uncle, whoever it is, to continue to be in the same message. And that's the key, because ultimately that's what it all comes down to. It really does come down to, they don't get this. You know, when they look out, they don't see me. They don't see the program a lot of times. Sometimes they don't even see each other. Okay, when I see them, all right, and this is just the way that it is, when you go through the recruiting process, whether you've known them a short time or whether you've known them an awful long time, when you look back at them, okay, you see them, but you see their families. And I certainly don't want to see families like I had to see the other night, in the sense of me being in there first before they were, and then preparing them to see their son in that situation. So I've always believed that, and more than ever, that's the image that I have about communication and what you're trying to get across to people. That when you look back at them, you're not quite sure what they see, but you better see their families when you're looking back at them. And that's the most important aspect. And we can always, there's not one day, there's not one time period of a game or a practice or a session, or certainly when you have discipline or punishment, or when you have issues, or when somebody makes a mistake, you know, even going back to what we had this summer, and when they make a mistake, you always are always, all right, that's where the parental part of it constantly comes in. You are always going to wonder about what you could have done better. And that's where the beat up is, because you constantly beat yourself up over that. But at the same time, you got to keep communicating, and you got to keep going with it, and you've got to keep, you can't stop, and you've got to continue to have those people around you that can help you enlist that message best way possible.
Tom, I know you don't always like to get specifics in terms of discipline, but is this a situation now where almost zero tolerance needs to happen?
You know, I'm not sure what I really understand what zero tolerance is. And you're a parent, right? I'm a parent too. I don't really know what that means. I know this, okay? I know if I could go back and do something over on Friday night, okay, after a very good practice and 20 to 30 minutes talking about what we weren't going to do, all right? And you know what I wish I'd have done? I wish I'd have scheduled practice later that night. The rules say you get to, I'm not joking.
No, I believe you.
Okay? The rules say you get to practice till midnight. That's it. Then you can't go again till the next morning at 5. All right? If I could go back and do it over, we'd have practiced till 11:30 midnight, showered up, got him something to eat, took him back to my house, figured out how we were going to do it, got up the next morning, okay, came back in here shortly after 5 when it's legal again and practiced again if I knew that that situation was going to happen that night. And you know what I've learned from this too? If coming to Indiana and really looking forward to Halloween or Little 500 weekend or some other holiday or some other get-together that comes in on a college campus, if I could look at it and say, you know what, they want to come for that, all right, then they're not coming to Indiana. Now, do I think anybody just comes for that? No, I don't. But do I think it's a part of it? Yes. And if I could go back and do that over, I absolutely would. And I absolutely would. Now, steps taken right now? Absolutely. Do we do more? No question about it. Were we already doing a lot? Absolutely. You know, and the thing about discipline and punishment, they're two different things. And punishment, a lot of times, is what you see. You know, a suspension, or, you know, they're up early in the morning for something, you know, the dawn patrol or those type of things. But the discipline, the punishment and the discipline, sometimes they're ongoing, you know, and it's internal discipline for a reason, because you're trying to keep it internal, all right? And that's why they use the word. But I've never been a big grandstander on we're doing this and we're doing that and, you know, this isn't going to happen. Nobody can say that. I don't know what's going on right now, right? Just like you don't, nobody does, and I'm not making an excuse. We just don't, right? So we deal with it when it comes. But is everybody's attention at a place right now on issues probably where it's never been in their life? I would hope so. I would absolutely hope so. And not every one of them saw him, you know, that time. Not everyone saw him even when he was remotely in his worst shape. But they saw enough to know. And I'm not using this as it is what it is. You know, it's not like we have to put a picture up of him to remind anybody. So I don't know what zero tolerance means. I really don't. I know that's a nice buzzword phrase. All right, we're going to continue to do everything we can do, okay, to get decision making to improve, to get immaturity to become maturity. Does that mean that everybody's going to make it here? Well, maybe not, okay? You don't get in this business, all right, to get rid of people when they're making progress, okay? And I've had to remove people, and I've had people that removed themselves right before I removed them so that they could save face. You know, if I've been anything as a coach that I look back and say, you know, I've got a big fault on this, I've been too forgiving of the person, okay, too early, maybe. I mean, not necessarily forgiving of the act, but it doesn't mean that you just say, okay, that's it, you're gone, all right? Because a lot of times, all right, there's some great success stories of people that have left me or people that have transferred, okay? There's also some that aren't. And when you've coached 28 years and been a head coach for 16 years, you're going to have a lot of everything. It is what it is. So that's a long answer, and I don't want to give long answers. I really did want to come in here and do that. But that's a long answer to a question that I don't really have a great clarity on. And I know everybody can have one, okay? But the bottom line is we've got to help people grow and get better.
Zach? Coach, what? Oh, I'm sorry. Zach's asking.
I'm sorry, what's your name?
Sorry, which one of
You.
Me?
Okay.
Sorry. I guess following up on that somewhat, and I apologize, I don't know how to ask this more delicately, but do you feel, I guess, a greater level of impact in the way that guys are, because of the nature of this incident this weekend, do you feel like guys are taking it more seriously, I guess? You talked about...
Well, what would you think? I would certainly hope so. Yeah, absolutely. I don't mean that bad. I mean, I would certainly hope so. And you'd also like to think that it would never gotten to that situation. But have we, I can't give zero tolerance. Are there some things that right now, you know what, the next stories that might be getting done will be about, boy, he's a dictator and he's no fun to play with, and there'll be unnamed sources that say, you know, he's this, he doesn't let us do that. I'd much rather deal with that reputation. I'd much rather deal with that than I would to have to look at parents like I did the other night and call home and make the kids call home when we've had mistakes in the past. And I'd much rather deal with that. So do I think they got their attention? Yeah, and you know what? We're not going to take it for granted. It's the best answer I can give you, Zach. We're not going to take it for granted. And it's not like we have to make a bunch of wholesale changes. We were already doing a lot of things. There's a staff of people that you surround yourself with. There's a support staff. There's life skills. There's counselors. You know, we have the medical people. And, you know, when you're at Indiana, you got the opportunity to have some of the best. You know what? And that still doesn't make it go right. You just have to keep with the message as consistent and as many times and as many different ways as you possibly can. It's like a drill. You know, you want to get better at transition defense. If you do the same drill every day, they become accustomed to the drill. Okay? 5, 6, 7 different ways we can work on transition defense. Maybe we get better at it and it doesn't become so regimented. It's the same thing in discipline and communication. We just keep finding different ways to do it. You know, I mean, we had a mistake in the winter. Chris Herron, who to a man that's ever heard him, okay, and to a man, whether it's Victor Oladipo at the NBA Rookie Symposium and Cody Zeller, whether it's NFL players, with the people that know him, not a more powerful speaker out there right now. And 2 nights later, Hunter Perea made a huge mistake. He was in that meeting. You know, so that's where I go. You're trying to get the message across. He said, well, why don't you do this? Why don't you do it? We are. All right? Hunter sat a couple games. I'm not sure the discipline somewhere in mid-July is when we started to back it off. And the punishment and the discipline, I just didn't call a news conference to cover it all the time. And we didn't put it on message boards. We just do it. And it's the way that it is.